all you New Yorkers.
So what do we need to know about Florida in terms of different MSAs?
And pre-COVID, Florida was a huge in-migration state already.
What made the guys stand out who became successful?
One thing I realized, and the conclusion I have drawn, is building a team doesn't necessarily translate into more money for you if you're doing it right. So it's tough to replace palm trees and sunshine no matter where you go. So that was one reason people like it. And then the business-friendly environment, no state income tax. So that was always very appealing for investors.
What's the biggest difference between, say, a publicly traded company and a privately held firm like RIPCO?
They've proven that they can build something highly successful, and then just entered the Florida markets 3 years ago.
Ari Ravi, thanks for coming up.
Thank you.
How's your trip been so far? You enjoying New York?
So far, so good.
Usually we have alcohol.
Yeah,
We're gone a bit more healthy. We usually do a cheers.
Good. Well, I appreciate that. I'm old. Drinking early now gets me drunk and hungover.
Yeah, I hear you. Welcome to New York. So as a visitor to New York, what's it like walking the streets, seeing the city?
It's phenomenal. Yeah. I love the energy. I love visiting here. I couldn't live here, just like I couldn't live in Miami because I'm a more slower paced type of guy. But the energy's great. The people's great. The food is phenomenal. Hell, we just in our last meeting, we were walking out and Rebel Wilson walks by. So it's like, unreal. Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah. Nice, beautiful day today.
Yep.
Good time catching up with some clients. What are they saying?
Pardon me?
What are your clients saying? I know you've been in town meeting quite a few of your clients.
Yeah, so they're out there looking, hunting for deals. And they're starting to be able to find deals that they can underwrite. Last year is just kind of, everyone wanted way too much.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of conversations about the market will eventually get to a point where you can put pen to paper. So we're starting to see that more and more, like the last 30, 60 days.
Nice. That's why we're excited to have you on, because you're crushing it down in Florida, top producer in the Tampa area, right? But your business is more regional.
I would say I'd say 80% of what we do is in the Tampa MSA,
okay,
west coast of Florida.
Yeah.
And then the other 10, 20%, whatever the breakdown is outside of Tampa and throughout the country.
Got it.
On the multi-tenant side, it's even a higher percentage. We've definitely listed, sold, closed deals in Alabama, South Carolina, Georgia, throughout the Southeast and Midwest. Most of that is in Florida. Single tenant, it's a little less in Florida and more throughout the country.
Nice. And are you seeing a lot of the New York capital, New York money flowing down to Florida? Because that's all we're hearing is we're not buying any more deals in New York.
Particularly during COVID, I remember hearing that a lot.
Yeah.
And they're going down to Florida. And
pre-COVID, we had a ton of Northeast investors, New York specifically. And pre-COVID, Florida was a huge in-migration state already. And a lot of Northeasterners moved down to like Southeast Florida. A lot of Midwesterners moved to Tampa. So it's tough to replace palm trees and sunshine no matter where you go. So that was one reason people like it. And then the business-friendly environment, no state income tax. So that was always very appealing for investors. And a lot of New Yorkers live up here most of the year, but have a second home or come visit, Miami, Fort Lauderdale, or Tampa, Orlando. And then post-COVID, so pre-COVID, we had about 1,000 people a day moving in.
Wow.
About 66% of those were moving in the I-4 corridor, Tampa, Orlando. Post-COVID, at the high mark, that was 2,000 people a day. Wow. So, and that extra 1,000 people, they were running away because of the way Florida handled COVID versus a lot of the rest of the country.
Mm-hmm.
And that extra 1,000 was actually higher demographics, more affluent, which has helped prop up our state economy.
So it's a state on the rise, right? The last 4 or 5 years, I'm sure you've really seen it.
It's always been on the rise. So we took over New York in population, I think 16, 17.
Really?
But then they threw gasoline on the fire with COVID. I mean, our leadership, right or wrong, and no one's perfect, but they opened up the state sooner. They allowed us to leave and work and support our families. And if we did that, they didn't call us murderers. So I think people were getting sick of hearing them getting berated by leadership because they're trying to support themselves and their family, and the stimulus money has run out.
Must be refreshing for a New York investor to go down to Florida, Tampa, and not deal with so much policy and regulation. And
yes, they love it.
Yeah.
meet so many Northeasterners and Midwesterners, and they're like, we should have done this a long time ago.
Really?
And then they leave during the summer to come back up here because it's scorching.
Yeah.
I'll go down to Miami a bit. My wife's family from Miami, and we go down there, always have a good time. Miami's got, even the last 5 years I've been going there, it's got way more hectic. It's just crazy to go down there. And, like, the traffic is insane there. It's an interesting market because you've got landlocked between the water and the Everglades. So it is kind of like a unique market in terms of there's not much geography, like New York and the water, you know. So I think that area, that market in particular, still has a lot of growth to go.
I think the whole state does.
Yeah.
And the only downside is what you just mentioned. Traffic's worse. It's harder to get into restaurants.
The public transportation's awful. Yeah. There is none.
There is none in Tampa either.
Yeah, really.
So, but I'll take the challenges of getting restaurant reservations in exchange for a stronger economy.
I suppose because they're newer cities, whereas New York, the subway system's been around for 150 years or so, so that infrastructure is probably going to come. And even when I was in Miami last, they were doing more like monorails and doing more infrastructure because the city needs it.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. But that's municipalities in general. I think New York is somewhat of an exception, like being, and I don't even know how it started, but it's always reactive and not proactive.
Yeah.
Right? We've been a high growth state for as long as I've been alive, especially the last 15 years. So you would imagine, like, let's invest in infrastructure in anticipation of this versus letting it happen, and now we're scrambling and have to do it shoddy.
Yeah. Another thing I noticed when I go down to Miami is the shopping centers, right, which is a big part of your business. It's like, it's part of the culture down there. There's like so many shopping centers. It's crazy. And like everyone, particularly like the open air ones, people go and dine there. It's a whole like experience. So I can see why that market is interesting to invest in.
Yeah, well, 9 months of the year, it's relatively pleasant.
Yeah.
And then call it June, July, August, you don't want to be outside, but for different reasons. Here in the heart of the winter, you just can't be outside.
Yeah.
There, at least you can sweat and figure it out, but no one wants to. You just go inside the AC. I think that's part of it. It's why so many golf courses,
right,
stuff like that.
If we were to zoom out a little bit and just talk about Florida, so what do we need to know about Florida in terms of different MSAs? Like, what are the main markets that, if I'm a New Yorker coming down there, that you would...
Sure. So I'd say the Miami MSA, Miami-Fort Lauderdale is the largest. And then you have Orlando and Tampa and Jacksonville. So those are the four largest MSAs. Southwest Florida, from like Fort Myers to Naples, has been one of the fastest growing regions, you know, since this last run up, since the Great Recession. And then going up through the interstate, when you get to North Florida and the Panhandle, that's a different MSA. But it's more so, I'd say, Miami, Orlando, Tampa, Jacksonville.
The further north you go in Florida, the further south you go in
That's right.
in the U.S.
Florida is the most southern state, but the least southern of the southern states.
Yeah. So up north is a totally different feel, vibe than down south.
The Panhandle, it's a little bit more like Alabama.
Yeah.
It's great.
So would you buy different asset types in each different location?
Depends what you're looking for. It's all about the profile of the asset. Like Miami, you're not going to get the yields you're going to get in the Panhandle. But as you guys know, investors have different motivations, different reasons. Some want to say they own in Miami and are willing to take less yield. Some are just more yield driven, and they're okay if it's kind of down and dirty, not the prettiest asset, if it's peeling off revenue.
Right.
I know they're very aggressive. The developers going down there are very aggressive on their rental forecasts and assumptions. Some mates might say too aggressive, you know.
Maybe. They seem to be hitting those assumptions for the most part, but you got to imagine they're probably hitting them less today than they were a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Because that 10, 15, 20, 30% growth cannot be extrapolated moving forward for a long period of time.
And are you having any supply constraints on new development the way we have it here, in terms of we could be waiting for the DOB to approve a project?
Right, and the tax abatement, right? The 421A tax abatement.
Tax abatement has slowed down development because a developer can't get a property tax abatement. Are you dealing with anything like that for getting shovels in the ground?
My guess is yes, we're having our issues just like everyone does with municipalities, got to jump through hoops. My guess is there's less down there than here.
Yeah.
It's probably just more of a function of inefficiencies in government in general. But I would think, and I'm less a developer and more just in place income producing already, so not as much dealing with that. But I do deal with a lot of merchant developers as they're building single tenant or multi-tenant, and the complaints I hear from them seem different than the complaints that I hear from folks building in New York.
That's probably the most attractive asset type for, if I'm a New York multifamily owner, I imagine if I'm going south, or I'm selling the building here, right? So I'm done with tenants, I'm done with headaches. I want to just make life easier. Is the New York sellers, are they buying triple net properties typically, or do they have a certain sweet spot that they like to grab?
It's case by case. One thing I loved about New York investors prior to COVID is it was very common for them to see 4 or 5 cap, 3, 4, 5 cap. And they come down to Florida and see a 6 cap and they think, wow, this is phenomenal. So what we once considered in 15, 16, 17 aggressive caps was very appealing to New Yorkers. That has since changed, right? Because Florida has improved tremendously since COVID, especially. So our cap rates got a lot more compressed and our rent growth and demand got higher.
It's done the inverse, right? It's gone lower in Florida. Now it's higher.
That's right.
6, 7, 8 caps in New York.
That's right. But it's case by case as to if someone sells multifamily up here, what are they going to do when they transfer that money down to Florida? It depends. If they're selling multifamily because they've owned it for decades and they're tired of managing it, they want to retire, they exchange into a single tenant deal because it's little to no management, then that's one thing. But if they sell multifamily here and want to buy multifamily down there, I think one of the appealing things is the business environment, like no rent control.
Zero rent control, nothing.
Not really. Yeah. No rent control to the way it is up here. I know in St. Pete at one point they were floating it to talk about it, but then everyone's just like, look, it's already been done. Look in New York, California, I'm sure Chicago, DC, and it's just, you see a big sample size years and years later of what it produces. And it's not what the folks that put those policies in thought it would be. So thankfully, in Florida, it's pretty purple. So like a pretty moderate. It's not hard one way or the other, which is what I like about it.
Yeah.
Because when you get extreme one way or the other, then that's when things just get more divisive and nothing can happen.
You have checks and balances.
That's right.
When it's red and blue.
Exactly. Yeah. And I hate going politics, but, this day and age especially, it's all intertwined.
Well, real estate and politics, we've seen firsthand when the rent laws changed in 2019, policy does impact real estate values.
Yeah.
So they are intertwined, as you were saying.
I just read an article today about one of the sheriffs in one of our counties talking about squatters.
Yeah.
They're like, we will put you in jail.
Squat.
Yeah, DeSantis just signed in law making it harder for squatters. And the sheriff's like, I don't understand. They're trespassing. It's not their house. How is it they can stay for months and years? And the owner is the bad person.
Right. Yeah.
Whereas here it's my perception is here it's the opposite.
Yeah, if you look at the news any week. So this week it was a lady in Queens.
She changed her locks and she got put in jail.
She got put in jail. And the news was there and everybody was there and there was like 2 squatters coming in and out. The news cameras were outside and they were just like...
It's like Bizarro World. I don't understand.
But they cuffed her. And
I know.
And brought her away, the owner.
Help me understand why that makes sense.
She was trying to like go sell her building.
Yeah, it was her property. These people are trespassing.
So when you look at that, right, it's like it's probably worth your while to take a look at Florida, right? If I'm a buyer, because what you came up here, couple hour flight, 2 hour flight? Yeah,
2 hours.
And if you have some sort of management team on the ground, which is actually something I'd like to dig in on you a little bit. If I'm owning in New York, right? So my whole life is here and we live here. You're going to go down to Florida. You're going to find an investment. How do you put together a team?
Sure.
On the ground that will give you security up here?
So let's assume shopping center.
Yeah.
Right.
Perfect.
There's tons of property managers in most of the major MSAs that are reputable and reliable. So it's about building relationships with the appropriate people that can put you in touch with them. So I get clients calling me all the time looking for property management. I have 2 or 3 that I trust, and I put those in front of them. Nice. And they can interview them and figure out who's the best fit for them. So once you have that third-party management and whatever else you need, attorneys, maintenance, lawn care, all that stuff, which a lot of property managers line up for you, then it's relatively speaking easy to own in New York a shopping center in Florida, which is why I'm here. Everyone I'm meeting with either owns or wants to own shopping centers in Florida, and a lot of them have owned many for years and transacted and exchanged, and it just makes sense. Like that type of third-party service allows you to own from afar.
How's shopping centers generally performing as an asset class? Like we do like you were selling to retail condos or single-story taxpayers, retail buildings, but not necessarily shopping centers.
Sure,
So
phenomenal. I mean, the problem that brokers and people that make money off transactions is experiencing is transaction volume dropped anywhere from 50 to 70% year over year from 22 to 23, depending on area and product type. So with a lack of transactions, people like us, developers, title, appraisers, people that make money off transactions, debt, although there's refinancing and all that stuff, we're struggling. But when I'm talking to shopping center owners, almost all of them have high occupancy. Their bigger problem is they can't lease enough space. There's not enough vacancy, and there's still a high amount of demand for tenants to find space to lease. So they're doing fine, unless there's like a personal issue or a debt issue.
Yeah.
That forces them to sell, whether it's 2021 or 2024.
Are there any particular tenants or that's the flavor of the month for investors right now in these shopping centers, or any trends you're noticing? That's
Yeah, I mean, look, higher credit and absolute net lease. So you see, like, for example, Starbucks, pre-interest rate hike and pre a lot of this headwinds, they were selling the low to mid fours. Now you're seeing more high fours, low to mid fives, because a lot of those Starbucks are double net or triple net, but they're not absolute triple net. So an owner would be responsible for roof structure parking a lot of times. So it's just more management intensive. Not a lot, but a little bit more than an absolute net lease McDonald's or CVS ain't a great example, but QSRs that are absolute net lease, where you have pretty much no management responsibility. I think that's what people are more focused on these days, unless they're willing to get a little bit of a higher yield by having a little bit more management.
I hear you. That makes sense.
Do these shopping centers, on a price point basis, do they fall in the mid-market space, or are you dealing more on an institutional?
90+% of what I do is mid-markets.
Mid-market.
Under 20 million. A lot of it's under 10 million. Although, like, just the past 14 months, I've getting a lot more larger institutional priced and quality deals. But historically, that's been my main focus, the private investor, the mid-markets. And I'm not trying, and I don't think I want to. It's a completely different business and decision-making process in the institutional airspace. So that's really not the plan. I just have some good clients that have larger shopping centers that they listed with. Like, we sold a couple Publix anchors. And prior to that, last year, the past 8 months, we've sold 2 Publix anchors. And then prior to that, I'd never sold a Publix anchor. Winn-Dixie anchors and stuff like that. A lot of quality unanchored strips. But so there's been a little bit of an evolution.
Publix is like an institution down in Florida. I know, Miami, the thing to do is go to Publix, get a sub, and go to the beach. It's like sorry?
It's grocery store?
Yeah. It's a chain.
My wife likes me more than Publix.
It's like Target up here. My wife loves Target.
It is an institution. They do a great job.
Yeah.
They got one on like every half a mile.
Yeah, they've got them everywhere. Yeah, man.
Do you know Strip Mall guy? Do you talk to Strip Mall?
Yeah, great guy.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah.
He's not so much shopping centers, right? He's done a great job of getting the strip mall investing concept kind of popular. And
I think they're somewhat synonymous, shopping center and strip malls. You think shopping center, sometimes I think more power center or anchored. And yeah, he's more unanchored, service oriented neighborhood.
The shopping center would have a big box, typically anchor, right?
So it's all case by case, right? If you say it and that's how you categorize it, so be it. You're not wrong, right? No, but strip mall guy, he's a great guy. Actually, we met with him earlier. And
nice.
The way I started following him and reading his tweets is when he was still anonymous. And I was starting to read his tweets, and a lot of it resonated with me. So
yeah. He talks a lot of sense, right?
Yeah.
Got a lot of wisdom. Sure.
Exactly. So when someone thinks like you, a lot of what they say resonates. Started garnering more and more respect for him and just following him, and he gives good advice. And then eventually, obviously, he came out from being anonymous, and I just started meeting with him and talk with him.
Yeah. He does, and similar to other guys as well who you follow up on social media, he does a great job at like breaking it down and
simplifying it.
Yeah, verbalizing something that you thought that very week.
Yeah, it's like what we talked about.
Yeah.
Complex topics.
Yeah.
Speaking in a simple way and easy to understand.
Yeah.
Without sounding like you're condescending and talking down to someone.
Yeah. So it's an art.
Yeah.
And
what I love about social media and like Twitter is people that tweet a lot and consistently, that's usually their personality.
Yeah.
It's not like an actor or an athlete where all you do is see them when they're performing. Like football players on Sunday, or actors or actresses when they, you know, put out movies. And then you meet them and they're a different personality, which makes sense, right? They're acting. But on Twitter, when they're constantly tweeting, it's very hard not to be authentic and show your true self. So most people I've met that tweet a lot, it's pretty accurate as to what my perception of how they'll be is pretty similar to who they are.
We've had a big push on LinkedIn over the last 12, 24 months, and I think it's great for business. Just getting yourself out there.
I mean, I didn't really get a ton of value out of LinkedIn the first year or so.
I feel like it's picked up quite a lot more in the last 12 months.
It just
it has. It's like a CRM almost now.
And like we were talking to strip mall guys, like it's like working out. You got to do it consistently, and it's going to take time to get results. You work out for 3-4 months, you're not going to see as many results as you're doing it consistently for, you know, over a period of time.
The ROI definitely is there on LinkedIn. Instagram is a nut I haven't cracked. Can't think.
A little bit skeptical on that on our business. I don't know. Time will tell, I suppose.
Not a big real guy, Mitch. Stories.
To each your own. I'm not an IG guy or TikTok. You know, I got LinkedIn. I just read Twitter to more out of sports and business. Facebook is just like posting pictures of my kids, and every single person I'm connected with I know personally. It's just about keeping up with people that I don't see all the time, that don't live in Tampa. So that's what I use it for, because I think it's stressful and not very beneficial when you start getting into like arguing with people and politics and all that stuff. And there's a lot of trolls out there just there to hate.
For sure. So for you were really interesting background. Talk about you personally. You came from, you've been in the management seat, so you know how a brokerage operates, or how it looks at its staff. But you've been able to translate those skills into building a team, it sounds like, and I'm sure it's a lucrative move if you can take management skills, apply it to building a brokerage team, and do it successfully, right? Because it's
so it's funny because started in middle of 2008, did leasing for about 5 years. In 2013, went into investment sales. In 2015, when I was at Marcus, I went in to be a regional manager. So all I did was recruit, hire, train, develop agents from the office, manage the P&L, which I enjoyed. One thing I realized, and the conclusion I have drawn, is building a team doesn't necessarily translate into more money for you if you're doing it right. I've seen a lot of teams, not necessarily when I was a manager, but just overall, is if you don't provide like a true growth path for your juniors and the people that trust you, that you will grow, develop, train them, and give them a pathway to growth, then the good ones are going to recognize that and leave. So it's funny because there's a lot of agents at Marks & Millichap that were great brokers and great team leaders, to where they gave the pathway for their agents to make a lot of money underneath that. So those agents stayed with them. It reminds me of one of the top teams in the office. They did several millions of dollars gross fees one year. And their two juniors also did several hundreds of thousands of dollars, like 3-4 years in. And the income from the juniors made up like 10% of the seniors' income. In my mind, that is the way to do it. Because I tell people all the time, and this is my opinion, so everyone's got their own opinion, is if I truly just wanted to make the most amount of money, I wouldn't have a team. I would have me generating and closing business with a staff. I do it because I enjoy it. It's cheesy as it sounds, and the more and more you get to know me, you'll know I kind of live by cliches, but I try to live like process over results, all that cheesy stuff. But I truly enjoy seeing a guy like Nate or Ed or Joe or whoever it is that's underneath me going from little to zero income or zero experience and being a contributing factor to them being able to build a business and a life for themselves. That is just very rewarding. Yes, helping clients, I love it. That's something I got a big passion about. Same with what I just said. So in my mind, it is a thankless, and not thankless because the good team members appreciate it, and it's a fulfilling. It's not necessarily lucrative, in my opinion, if done right. Yes, if it works out ideally the way I want, it is lucrative, right? So Nate, my goal is at some point to get him to be a partner My goal is right now I'm here, he's here. I'd love to get him above me, so now I have someone to chase as well. Versus like trying to keep him below me, because good people that are motivated with a strong skill set are going to recognize that.
Yeah.
And if they don't see a pathway that's more beneficial for them with you, I would tell them to go elsewhere.
It's more sustainable for your business as well. Like if you're working together, right? You're growing together. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Like if what I envision comes to fruition, it's that 1 + 1 = 3.
Yeah.
But you can't get to that 3 by keeping that 1 down.
And in general, brokerage is a team sport. It's, there's very successful lone wolves in our business.
But that's the challenge, right? Some of the attributes that make the best brokers very good, sometimes are counter to sharing. And like,
competitive mindset,
winning,
want to be number one.
Yeah.
It is a mindset, like you said.
It's like, I want to win everything. Well, that means nobody else has, even sometimes on your own team.
But it's actually, I've never thought about it. The way you're doing it is actually a really interesting way of, if you are passionate about mentoring and you want others to succeed, if you do it for your own brokerage team, then you're really in the seat to achieve everything, right? Because
yeah.
You can be a broker, you can be a manager, you're building a team. Whereas I always feel like if you're managing the office, you really got to love management.
Yeah. I learned that at a very high level that I really loved it.
Yeah.
But I can promise you, very few times people came into my office to say, "Are you doing a great job?"
Yeah. I understand that.
Yeah. It's a different.
That's where it's a little. It can be challenging.
Yeah.
But it builds skill sets. It builds scenarios and situations that I had never been in before.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was in my mid-30s, overseeing and running an office of 40 agents, 40 staff. We were doing like 1.3 billion in volume every year, and I could not have replicated that myself on my own.
Right.
Without starting a company and then hoping over the years and years building it to that level. So It was a phenomenal opportunity, and I don't regret any of it.
That's great. And we're lucky to have you now at RIPCO. You joined here before us. What's the biggest difference between, say, a publicly traded company and a privately held firm like RIPCO?
What I loved about RIPCO is we built a behemoth up in the Northeast. So we have these systems, processes, structure. They've proven that they can build something highly successful. And then just entered the Florida markets 3 years ago. So it was an opportunity to have the benefits of going with a startup that had the back office systems and experience of a behemoth.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the options I was thinking of was starting something on my own.
Mm-hmm.
But in that case, I would have had to be chef, cook, bottle washer, CEO, COO, legal, all that stuff.
Forget about brokerage then.
That's right.
Yeah.
Whereas what I enjoyed the most is servicing clients, mentoring, coaching, developing people.
Mm-hmm.
And in this case, I'm able to do that with having partners like Peter, Todd, Mark, Gene, Tony to lean on. Partners like you guys and everyone else in the New York offices and the Florida offices to partner with and try to strategize and grow our businesses together.
Mm-hmm.
And then I equate it to when I was leaving CB. CB is a fully built out canvas, fully painted.
Yeah.
And I got a little corner that I could add to it.
Yeah.
Whereas RIPCO Florida it's just starting to get
Blank canvas.
Blank canvas. Right? We were the first investment sales agents they hired.
Yeah.
So that was a huge appealing factor to be able to just kind of paint a blank canvas.
Yeah.
Really make a mark.
Yeah.
Make an impact.
We kind of felt the same.
Yeah, same rationale.
And even though Bruce had come in and started the investment sales division in New York, we were the first guys in here in Manhattan.
Yeah.
So RIPCO weren't necessarily on our radar as an investment sales outfit.
Sure.
But we loved the ambition. After meeting with Mark and Fasano and Peter and Todd, there's not too many brokerages that are aggressively trying to grow right now. And I think RIPCO are not doing it like some of our old colleagues would have done it, where you just throw everything at the wall and see what sticks. I think there's like some thoughtful, strategic recruiting going on. And we've seen it even in the last 6 months. There's a talent pool building up here.
And they have the ability to do that because they're not public.
Right.
One thing I really learned when I was running Marcus, then into CB, is public companies have to live quarter by quarter.
Mm.
Whereas we all know brokerage is, we have no idea what's going to happen within the quarter.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I was reporting out, like having to project looking at a pipeline that had so many deals that weren't even hard yet.
Yeah.
I have no freaking idea.
Well, you're trying to pad your numbers, I'm sure. And you're like, you need to show you.
And by the way, I don't even want to pad the numbers because if you project,
then you're held
you get dinged.
Yeah.
If you under project, you get dinged.
Yeah.
You got to hit it right on the nose with this huge pipeline of deals that you have no idea if they're going to close when they're all still refundable deposits.
It's very stressful for you to manage a cash flow brokerage business.
It's not ideal. I just stopped being stressed about it because it was out of my control.
Yeah.
So whereas when you're not answering to Wall Street, you can afford to look 12, 24, 36, 48 months down the road and know, just like good times, this too transitioning market shall pass. Mm-hmm. So you don't have to make a decision by June to satisfy the public. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You can play chess, not checkers, essentially.
Yeah.
Did CB even want to be in the mid-market space? Like, I was thinking like selling office glass tower buildings.
Yeah, I mean, they're the largest firm in the world and more institutional. In the private space, I like it because it's more about clients care less about the uniform you're wearing and the card you're holding versus who you are as a player.
Yeah.
Right? So when I left CB and came to RIPCO, a lot of folks, unless they were from the Northeast, didn't know who RIPCO was. But they knew what I brought to the table, and that's all they care about because platform is important, don't get me wrong, but I think it is a lot more player than it is platform. Mm-hmm. Just like when I was in management. It's a lot more the broker. If it wasn't for the brokers, we wouldn't have a job when I was a manager.
Yeah.
Now, if they're 80%, 90% the credit and we're 10, 15%, especially with new agents, it's an important 10, 15%. But the vast majority of the value is the boots on the ground, generating and closing business, because that's what pays the bills.
Yeah. Mm. Going back to your experience in Marcus, you saw a lot of young agents sort of come and go. I'm just curious from your perspective, what made the guys stand out who became successful?
The ones that were that were best able to get kicked in the face over and over again with a smile.
Literally sometimes.
In other places too. But could keep coming back with a smile.
Yeah.
And doing it over and over again for months and months and months and years over and over. So it's our tolerance to take pain.
Yeah.
And then the best figure out a way to trick their brain to enjoy the pain, which is kind of sick.
Masochist mentality.
That's right.
Yeah.
Because early on in my management career, I'd be like, all right, this person's going to make it. They got saying all the right things, looks the part, has the skill set, but you never know till the bullets fly, right? Till you start getting hung up on or getting difficult conversations or a deal dies that you already spent the money for in your head. That's when you truly understand the character and resilience of someone versus them knowing all the answers in the training room.
Yeah.
Doing great in cold call role plays or any sort of role plays. That's a little easier because it's not truly real environment, right? And then doing that every day. You can hit your metrics one week, but it's about hitting them week after week after week over time. Because brokerage is tough, man. It's like you're pushing a boulder up a hill.
Yeah.
You cannot see over the boulder. You can't see around the boulder. So you don't know when you get to the top. The guy that opened the Marcus office, he said, is the hardest $50,000 you're ever going to make, but the easiest $500,000.
So true.
But it's getting to that top. And there was so many times where I could see they were close to the top. But I wasn't pushing the boulder. They were. So they couldn't see over and around it, and they didn't believe me. So they left. Or they just didn't enjoy the scope of work, which is fine too, right? There's so many good people that I had the privilege of hiring, training, and it just didn't work out because trade commission investment sales is for a very small percentage of people. This business in general, that's trade commission in general, is not for most.
I think is it 95% don't get past year two? It's some crazy stat.
I think it was like, for me, I didn't really track it because I'd probably cry, but at least 8 out of 10.
There you go.
Yeah. Even if you think about it, when you started in the business, whenever you started, think about how many people are still doing it on a daily basis. And, there's probably...
And it makes sense.
Yeah.
You got, waking up every day.
There's so many easier ways to make a living.
Yeah. What are we at towards the end of March?
Yeah.
So we're 3 months in.
Yeah.
If you associate when you get paid with success, then every day this year, except for 5,
yeah,
I failed.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's not the easiest.
But those 5 days carry so many failures
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? So it's very hard to.
It's how you frame your perspective.
Yeah, it's like you really have to look at it at a 12-month, 24-month, and that's why so many people, I think, drop. To answer my own question, that's why they drop out, because they don't have the perspective of a 5-year timeline, and say they'll never know how close they were to making it. And that's one thing that kept me coming back, even though I just wanted to give up, was like, what if I'm almost there? This went on for years.
Yeah.
My wife will tell you. So my first year in the business, I made $30,000, right? So I was like, nice, okay, year one is over. So I made no money, and, you know, like that 30 grand is a bonus, because everyone said you're going to make no money the first year. So I was ready. Yeah. The problem was no one told me year two that I'd make 25,000.
What do they call that? The danger zone, right?
Yeah. So now I was really in the danger zone. So anyone who would have thrown me a life raft, I would have taken it. So I was 2 years in, and all the credit card bills were piling up, and I made less money than year one. So that, like, any rational, smart person would just go on and do something else then.
Yeah, that's why you can't be rational.
That's why I was just like, but what if it's going to happen next year?
Yeah. In addition to that, though, too, so it's about understanding why you're doing it, like figuring out the why.
Yeah.
So like every single new agent that I worked with and still work with is write out your why. Write out your business plan. Because
I like this.
There's afternoons where nothing's working out, or weeks where there's nothing working out, where it's easy to say, all right, I'm going to go home for the day. Just call it a day and rest so I'm good for tomorrow.
Yeah.
But like on my cube, I have my business.
Lyra likes that.
Me and Lyra and I had this conversation during the week. We're like, this is a tough week just to grind through.
Yeah.
But sorry.
No doubt. No, absolutely. This is what this is about.
It's very relatable.
Yeah, exactly. Anyone that goes through it can relate. Yeah. So what's what's helpful for me is my business plan is up on my cube.
That's smart.
And when things are getting hard, and that business plan has changed, my why has changed. Up until 2015, I didn't have a wife and kids. So I had different whys. So now I have to look over there to my right, and it's all about what I'm trying to accomplish for my family, which is much easier for me because it's not for me.
Yeah.
So in a sick way, I'm like, if I leave early, I'm failing them, right? Every single day. And no one's perfect. I'm not saying I don't falter. I falter all the damn time. But I falter less when I know my why.
Yeah.
So everyone I think about and I work with, that's the first thing we talk about. And in your early 20s, you're not necessarily thinking about family, but I remember one of the agents that I worked with at M&M, they wanted to have $1 million in the bank by 30. So every time things were getting hard, I was like, everything you're doing is getting you to that $1 million. Because he was a little late to the game. He played, baseball and minor leagues, went to college and stuff like that, to where he had a specific goal. And then the more and more we worked together, the more he had a clarity as to what he wants to do with that $1 million. Because no one cares about the paper. It's what we do with that paper.
It's the freedom that dollars
That's right.
provides.
And then the more specific you get with that freedom.
Yeah. Why do you want freedom? What will you do with that freedom?
Exactly.
And now you're really getting into
Yeah. So now it's like 529 accounts, trips, certain type of house.
It gets way more boring, doesn't it? The why.
That's right.
IRA and all that stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So,
but if you can really internalize that at start, we have a whiteboard that we keep for the team, more for Todd Cooper, so he can just see it. He really enjoys it. But every week we update it and we look at what we've pitched, what we've listed, and what we've closed. And they're obviously just like the business numbers. But I think one thing that we could do is try to put together, like, what does that mean? All right, so these are our business numbers, but like you were saying, what do these business numbers provide for us in a more like in our personal lives?
Yeah, what you're talking about is like the daily grind of your pipeline.
Yeah,
that's your why. And then taking it a step further is, so my business plan is 2 pages. That's it. The bottom of it is the why. Why am I doing this? What are some self-development things? And then why am I doing this? All the stuff I was just talking about.
Yeah.
Then as I get higher and higher up, right to left, a little backwards, it's the metrics it's going to take to get there.
Yeah.
So like if I start at the top of the page, it is like hours worked, or days worked, hours each day I'm working, calls, and those are the top 3 things that I can control. No matter what, I can wake up, put on my clothes, get to the office, right? I'm working.
Right.
No matter what, I can pick up a phone and dial 10 numbers. And then it's like meeting set. A little bit more out of control. You got to get the other person to say yes. Proposal's done. listings generated, then income, low, medium, high goals, year 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Once again, nothing's written in pen. It's all written in pencil.
Moving target.
That's right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So all of that is on 2 pages next to on my desk, along with the pipeline you guys are talking about, which is more the daily.
Yeah.
That's more like the wide framework of, do I work exactly the hours that I have in there? No, but I'm not that far off.
Yeah. Yeah. This is good stuff. This is what
interesting. Yeah.
keeps you ticking over.
Mm-hmm.
What do you have on your desk, Mitch?
I have a picture of a beach house.
There you go.
A picture of my wife. Yeah.
Yeah. So I got a ton of pictures of my family on my phone, but at CB, I don't have as much cube space here. I just had like stuff that was motivating to me.
Yeah.
Family certainly is, but it was like all those cheesy quotes, like the Jordans and the Theodore Roosevelts and stuff like that. That helped me, and then I'd always look at my phone. Right? I got my screensavers, my kids, and got a bunch of pictures of my wife and kids.
Future real estate styles.
That's right, if they want. But another thing that I think I've gotten better at, has been helpful at least, is celebrating all the victories. Not over-celebrating.
You got to celebrate the little wins along the way.
That's right. Whether you get a listing, always a little celebration. Get a deal to contract, just a little celebrate. Because if all you do is celebrate the closings, you close a few deals a month, that's not a bad thing.
They're reliefs more than celebrations, right?
That's right. Yes.
Yeah, it's rarely joy
No.
at the closing. I mean, it's obviously joy, but it's rarely that euphoria that you were thinking of.
Right.
It's more of just thank God. That's
Relief. That's right.
Thank God. But getting signed up is a great feeling.
Yeah.
Like getting the listing, pitching against someone else and winning it.
Yup. Getting it a contract, getting it hard.
I think that's good advice. Yeah, you should celebrate those little wins, because otherwise, it's just constant.
It's too much of a
You
grind.
can't be constantly looking at the numbers, right? Like, how am I getting the next BOV? And you got go to a ball game maybe when you get a new listing, or treat the team to
Whatever the
lunch,
case.
whatever it is.
That's right.
Yeah.
Whatever your version of small not over celebration, but just acknowledging the fact that something good has happened.
Yeah, I like that.
The more we can do that, the better I feel, at least.
Yeah, for sure. That's great. So we came into this talking about Florida, and
I was just going to go back to that, actually.
We moved on, but this was good stuff, because I feel like you're clearly someone who thinks about this, and you're very good at it.
Always.
It was it's great to hear your feedback on it.
Back to the Tampa market and the Florida market. I'm just more curious than anything. How big is the market in terms of dollar volume and transactional size? I don't know if you have these numbers on top of your head, but I'm just curious to compare it to our markets. Yeah.
Oh man, that's a great question.
Because when we were we were doing our business plan coming out of RIPCO, we sort of identified a market. We know there was how many 250 transactions,
350.
Yeah, 350, 2 billion, and it was kind of good to break that down. And this ties in what you were just saying before in terms of what is my market and what am I going after.
I did that breakdown years ago.
Okay.
I don't track it every year, so I'm not good at answering that question. But Tampa's grown significantly, like 4 million in the MSA, 3-4 million, depending on which counties you include.
Yeah.
Which has grown significantly over the last several years. So Florida, Florida's third largest state now, as of 17-ish, 17, 18, and growing significantly, especially since COVID. But great question, and that is something I'm going to look into. Actual number of
Monday morning.
I don't even want to guess.
I suppose you're doing a lot more different markets as well, where we're more.
I'm trying to expand to more, and the capacity's pushed where we're starting to be able to get our capacity with Nate getting up to speed, with Joe, who we just hired, with Jacksonville on the boots on the ground, starting to grow more and more our capacity. So it's more about focusing on the goals and tasks at hand. But you guys bring up a great point. There's always room to improve. Understanding the exact numbers in the market, so we just get further clarity on what we need to do to capture that market share. Which the market share is not, the goal is not 100%.
Yeah.
Right? It's 20, 25, which is a high number from a market share perspective. Which is why going back to what we first talked about, brokers are so intense and they want to win all the time.
Mm-hmm.
That means they want 100% market share.
Mm-hmm.
It's like baseball. You hit 1 out of every 3 balls, you're going to be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
So that helps me frame my mind.
That's true.
I know I'm not going to win everything, and I do want to win everything I, work on, but I'm not going to be devastated if I don't.
Hit the singles.
That's right. If I hit 1 out of 3, 1 out of 4, 1 out of 4, that's the high end of my market share goal. Great.
You're a rock star, 1 out of 4.
No doubt.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, I know you have a flight to catch this evening. Are you heading back to
Tomorrow.
Nice. So you're going to be...
I got all day. Stop trying to kick me out.
What are you doing? I got to get out of here. What are you doing tonight?
Going to this comedy club.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Comedy Cellar?
The Stand.
Don't know.
I went there last time I was here with my buddy.
Uh-huh.
And it was pretty funny. So nice. We're going there.
Good.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
What about you? What are you up to this weekend?
I have a very regular weekend. Actually, I have my daughter's birthday party, second birthday party.
Nice. She your only one?
Happy birthday, Willow. She is number 2.
Nice. Yeah, Older girl or boy? JJ?
4, Willow's 2.
Yeah, my son's 9, my daughter's 6.
Nice. You're just ahead of me.
Few years.
We got it.
You're still changing diapers.
4 ways between us.
You're still changing diapers. You have
no, not yet.
Not yet.
Yeah, on the radar.
There you go.
no further comment.
Don't rush it. It'll happen.
Well, thanks for coming on. This is great. Great to see you up in New York, and thanks for coming. Appreciate your time.
This is awesome. I'll do it whenever you guys want. This is blast.
Yeah, we got to get a follow up on the books
all day long.
All right. Cheers.
Maybe I'll know some answers.
Thanks.
Thank you.